Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Not Content Podcast. My name is Jerome Cuson. We are going to be finishing the month of April with another Jesus movie. This time, we are going to be handling The Last Temptation of Christ, the very controversial Martin Scorsese movie that came out almost 40 years ago at this point. This is the first Martin Scorsese movie that we have ever talked about on any of our podcasts, so this is a big deal. And of course, leave a 4 or 5 star review on Apple and Spotify to get those algorithms going. Like and subscribe to us on YouTube. Please click the bell icon for notifications. And Brian, this movie rules. It's really, really good. And this isn't even top tier Scorsese. And you got a real hidden gem here. You've got something that is not based on any of the Gospels, but based on a fictional novel and based on the hypothetical, what if Jesus were more human? What if Jesus enjoyed watching Mary Magdalene have sex? What if Jesus built crosses to kill his own people? What if Jesus and Judas were conspiracy theorists? And really, is Harvey Keitel not a manifestation of our neighbors?
Boy, there's a lot to take in, right?
There's a lot.
First of all, this is probably my favorite. It's a lot to take in. This is my favorite religious movie about Jesus, and I'm not like a religious person. I did go to Catholic school for 3 years, but man, this idea of we're going to take our own interpretation. It's so refreshing compared to all these like literal interpretations we've got throughout the years.
I mean, the problem is
Jesus of
Jesus.
Nazareth,
Jesus
King
as
of
a
Kings, all
character
those
is
like Christian
not
movies.
interesting. That's the problem. Jesus
But
is
when you
not
put the
interesting.
superhero spin on him, but when you put that superhero spin on him and make him kind of more mortal, right? That's when you get these interesting kind of storytelling things going on with this movie. And I hate to say it, but like as I recall from philosophy class, see all those years ago in 11th grade, the interpretation of like the Jesus story is kind of like the precursor to the I forget that guy's name that comes up with the 12 steps of the hero's journey.
Joseph Campbell.
Joseph Campbell. And I guess the idea that the Jesus story was the original hero's journey, right? Because like that kind of goes back to the original scriptures and like, yeah, there's Old Testament stuff, but like Jesus kind of follows that, you know, the coming, the return, the call to action, all that stuff. And I think this fictionalized version kind of nails that portion of it, like that kind of concept of it. Because everything else, like Book of Matthew and John, it's like these literal interpretations that don't give you this full like arc. And this movie gives you a full arc because they just play with the narrative, and the book itself is a fictional narrative. But this concept of alternate realities and stuff, and all these different things that's up my alley. So you know me, like I love me a Doctor Strange 2 Multiverse of Madness stuff, and this gives me those vibes. That last third of this movie is totally that vibe. And I just love that every time I watch this, I like find something new, but I always like remember a lot of the scenes in this movie. And you mentioned Peter Gabriel, and Peter Gabriel, man, is like,
I
if you
mean,
don't
he
know who Peter
eats in this
Gabriel
movie,
is,
man. Like he,
yeah,
this is an
I
all
mean,
timer. I mean, this might.
yeah,
I think the score is incredibly underrated. I know that's not the Grammy Award, but when
I
people talk about
100%
the all
agree.
time great scores, like this is absolutely one of them. Like, it's not like it doesn't have like the memorable like John Williams definitive like moment, but I mean, just bell to bell,
Mood,
it's
tone,
unbelievable. Like it contributes so much.
and this is going to tie into what we're going to talk about next or this next month. But it has that Miami Vice feel where, and in Miami Vice, Peter Gabriel contributed like 7 songs throughout the series, but it kept setting the tone for each episode. And the music in this sets this darker, more serious tone, right? And then it's more grounded and realistic. And because it's grounded and realistic, it's got that Paul Schrader effect, is what I call it. Every time he writes a screenplay, every time he directs something, there's this groundedness, this realness to it, and
I
kind
mean,
of
this. I
Scorsese
mean,
bounced off that.
You said it yourself. The apostles are basically a bunch of noobs, right? They could be
They're a bunch
working
of
on
what?
the docks.
Yes, yeah. And then I just read that it was a smart thing to do is like good Scorsese got on set, everyone was like too clean, and he told all the extras like go rub yourself in dirt for a little bit and then come back to me. And then that's how like this like grounded, dirty look, but with like great colors and like great lighting because they use natural lighting a lot in this movie. Like it's all in the desert, but like a lot of great, like Lawrence of Arabia type shots. Not as great cinematography as Lawrence of Arabia, but like still great usage. You mentioned the shot of Jesus coming out of the desert. That was an incredible shot. Very well centered. Like, I don't know if it was that split diopter kind of effect, like in Goodfellas, where like the background is moving, or like the forward is moving, but it looks like the background is moving as well, kind of effect. But it definitely worked for Jesus coming out of the desert, and yeah, just a lot of great things. And Peter Gabriel is known as, like, him and Phil Collins come from Genesis, and they're this great band, and they're both great individual artists. The thing is like there's no like written songs in this movie, which is crazy.
No,
There's
there
a lot of
isn't.
chanting and stuff, but
I
Peter
mean, it's
Gabriel to
funny
like
that
write
we
music
review
without
two
lyrics is
musicals.
crazy.
We review two musicals, and this probably arguably has the best music.
Yeah, because Peter Gabriel's the fucking man, and I've been saying that for years. Because like I know a lot of wrestling fans, automatically think of Big Time, right, from that WrestleMania. Was it Hollywood WrestleMania, Big Time? But for me, it's more than that, because that song "Big Time" was like a big hit in the '80s. It's one of the more influential videos because it was stop motion. Peter Gabriel's like way like ahead of his time in terms of these kind of things, in terms of visual, musical cues. Like people think that I'm not one of these people. I think he's on par with Phil Collins, because Phil Collins is like this pop culture or pop, song genius. But like they're on par together in terms of like genius level musicians, and for
I
the
mean,
fact
they
that they were in a
are.
band together
I,
so
I mean,
long,
I
you
would
know what I
prefer.
mean?
I would say I prefer Peter Gabriel based on what I've heard. I've seen Tarzan enough to know what I think of Phil Collins. I mean, he's
Phil
okay.
Collins is
He's not bad.
very like lyrically, like, you know what I mean? Like his lyrics are like
Yes,
the hooks, right? But with Peter Gabriel, it's they sound like "In Your Eyes" is like, to me, the lyrics is not the hook in "In Your Eyes." It's that moving groove, right? Like dun 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 dun. Dun. You know what I mean? Like he gets groove so well in tone, maybe more so than Phil Collins, right? And I think that's why the soundtrack
it
works
is
so well,
also
because it's so
associated with one of the
unexpected.
most iconic scenes in a movie, right? With Count Cusack holding the
Right,
boombox. I
right,
mean, that's
and
iconic too.
right, but it's that tone, like, because it doesn't start out like a heavy metal song. It builds up into like the romance part of the song. So like this dude knows how to build up tension in music, and he does it so well in this. And like, because it's not traditional like instruments, right? This is very much that '80s synth kind of sound, but
I mean,
like
you're
fits
introducing
it
world
well.
music with an '80s bent to it. Is really
Right,
what you're
and you
doing.
got the drums. I think the drums are really key in this as well. Like it's just a tremendous appreciated soundtrack, and I think it's crazy that he's only
Great,
done what
great use
three
of
or
the
four.
drums as well. I mean, that's something the Stones are
Yeah,
known for as well, and I think you get that in this movie as well. I mean, like, I think that what makes this movie so good is just everything working so in sync. You've got great production design, you've got great performances across the board, you got an incredible soundtrack, and I think the movie's too long, but at the end of the day, I think that this movie. I think that you don't. If you try to map out the plot, I think it would be really hard to do that. This movie is all about vibes, and I think that the vibes in this movie are so well executed because it's Martin Scorsese, somebody who knows how to do vibes probably better than anyone. Even though he's also capable of making really good genre movies too, but what makes this work so well is that you have somebody who really truly knows what they're doing directing the movie. You've got an excellent choice playing Jesus, Willem Dafoe. I think does a great job. And I think on the surface you think, well, why would you cast him to be Jesus? Willem Dafoe is the master of calibrating himself to, on the one hand, seem like a really sane person, but then at a moment's notice can go crazy. I think that's what he's good at. I mean, that's why you cast him as the Green Goblin in Spider Man. That's why he works in this movie so well. Because Jesus is like legitimately crazy. Because the way that God talks to him is voices in his head. And I'm not talking Randy Orton here. I'm talking like this is how it manifests. And he's like trying to grapple with being the son of God and also being a sinner and being human and being in love with a prostitute. And there's all these different tensions that are at play. You never get this in another Jesus movie because it's all about him performing miracles and whatnot. And like the only miracle that we truly like, we get two miracles from this movie, right? We get the wine, which is very subtly done, and he almost does it like in a smart ass way, and the resurrection
wink,
of
wink,
Lazarus.
literally a wink, wink.
Yes. And resurrecting Lazarus. Like to me, the problem, like the Lazarus thing, I get you got to do it, but this movie should have justified why Lazarus should have been resurrected. Like, I would not expect a typical Jesus movie to do that, but I kind of expected this movie to do that. And I think that's one of the few flaws is that we don't get a reason. Like, why should Jesus resurrect Lazarus? Like, what possible reason could there be?
Well, that's the thing is like, is he being prideful? Is he showing off his power? But then that's a sin, so it's like that struggle again, right?
But
That's
he very clearly specifically does not like
right,
showing
but
his
we don't get the motive as to why even resurrect him in the first place, and because I guess they don't want to bring up any suspicion that it was a politically motivated resurrection. You know what I'm saying? Like, am I just going to resurrect this guy just to prove that I can, or am I going to do this because it's the right thing to do? Right? That's like because we've
right.
seen these in like medical dramas and shit where like we resuscitated the guy, but now he's in a coma. Should we have just left him dead, or did we do the right thing by putting him in a coma by resurrecting him? So it's just one of those like things. It's like, playing God literally. Like we're playing God when you do these kind of things. So that's the metaphor. I almost wouldn't have done the scene at all. I would have kept it more grounded, but they wanted to test the audience's like I don't know, faith, I guess, with these miracles. Because, like, obviously the wine thing could have easily been like, yeah, I snuck in an extra container of wine. Wink. You know what I'm saying? Like, that could have easily been, because they didn't even make it seem like it was magic. It was like, hey, you got another container over there. Wink. And it's like as if Jesus just snuck it in the party. But with the resurrection, it was like, okay, here, this is getting really, really something. And then the blindness, the blind guy, that was like, okay. So they're really playing with the whole supernatural thing here, which is interesting. Um, that's the only thing I would have taken out is like I would have just made it more grounded and more realistic and more like, okay, this is what the guy's actually doing, as opposed to what the Gospels have told us. And like, did he really resurrect somebody? Was it really like that? You know what I'm saying? So, and you bring up the whole mental health thing. I'm under the impression that Jesus has schizophrenia, and I'm not trying to be controversial. Like we talked about this when we actually talked about this movie back in high school. It's just like um, the way it's interpreted because there's no response until you get the angel in the third act, which could have been interpreted again as something other, like a hallucination or something. But it's just this idea that we only see him interpreting the voices, which is very this Van Gogh effect, right? Whenever you see Van Gogh on screen portrayed by somebody, he's hearing those voices, but you don't hear the voices. And other interpretations of Jesus, we hear what the voices are telling Jesus. So it makes the audience seem like, okay, he's not crazy. But in this case, is he schizophrenic? You know what I'm saying? Like it's very like close to that line and they play it really well. But then once the miracles start coming, it's like, okay, maybe he is like they're portraying him as if he is the son of God or whatever. So it's very
Right. They're
like
really
on the
straddling
line.
the fence in a good way. I think it actually works really well for the most part. I think that you've also got Harvey Keitel playing Judas, and I love that he just smacks Jesus around at certain points. I don't know why it's funny.
The
Um,
beginning,
I
oh my goodness.
I mean he's definitely on one, that's for sure. But he's a mentor. He's kind of an older brother. Like he's playing all these different roles. Like it reminds me of his character of Mean Streets a little bit. Obviously, he's 15 years older in this movie. I'm really glad that we did not get a De Niro in this movie. I think that's a huge positive because then I think it just becomes another collaboration between
Didn't need it.
De Niro and
Didn't need it
Scorsese,
because if you have De Niro in here, he's going to steal the show. He's going to try to steal each scene when you don't need that. You know what I'm saying? Like especially if he's not the
regardless
star.
of who he's playing. Like, and undoubtedly, he's probably going to play Jesus. But instead you've got Willem Dafoe, who I think does a really good job. I think Barbara Hershey does a good job. Mary Magdalene is obviously underdeveloped, as so many female characters are in these stories. And Scorsese, I think, has a mixed record. Like I think he's done, he's certainly had very good female performances in his movies. This one is probably not at the top of the list, so to speak. But I think that she still adds something to the proceedings, especially the scene where she's doing what she's doing for her profession, and then has the conversation with Jesus afterward, and then the scene where they consummate, and that's obviously probably the most controversial scene in the movie is Jesus consummating his relationship with Mary. But what people fail to realize is that it's a hallucination. It's not real. Like at the end of the day, like he doesn't really consummate, or I
Or is he
mean, he
dream
probably
walking?
doesn't.
Or is he dream walking like the MCU? And that's this is where I get that Doctor Strange 2 mixed in kind of thing here because it felt like Wanda dream walking in the third act of
I
this
mean,
movie, dude.
when Jesus comes out of the desert and is revealed, that is literally a shot that you see in superhero movies time and time
Yeah,
again.
so it's not that crazy to think about this idea of like an alternate reality, right? And Jesus in an alternate reality, and that was the whole point of the book. I wish that was more so the movie because it's only like maybe less than a third now that I think about it, maybe a fourth.
It's basically the
Uh,
last 30 minutes of the movie, and I think it's
yeah,
I
and
think
this
it's
is almost
it's really
it's a 2 hour
powerful.
and 45-minute movie. So like, I wish that was half the movie. You know what I'm saying? Like that would have been the more
This,
interesting thing.
I mean, I don't want to even. I'm scared to put this into the universe, but this is the kind of thing where you could do a 6 episode miniseries, and
As a
nobody would
what
actually
if?
have the balls. Nobody has the balls to do this now, especially
I
with
mean,
who's
maybe
in office.
Look,
But
Paul Schrader's still alive, dude. So it's not like he
I mean, Martin
lost his
Scorsese's still
balls.
alive. I mean, they could do it. It's just I don't think anybody has the appetite for doing something like
I
this.
mean,
But
because
this is
they skipped over a lot of stuff, and like what's
you
weird is like it got
absolutely could do a 6 hour miniseries on this version of Jesus, and you have an entire episode that is this alternate
and
like
there's some like
thing.
things in the background that like we had to pick up on because did you notice that he had two wives, the two one the two
Right, Mary Magdalene
women?
dies early, and then he marries
He ends up with like
another.
two wives,
I mean, he has
two
multiple
wives.
kids. We don't get any idea of their interactions because, again, the movie's running out of time, so they really have to focus on the scene with Paul, which is really good in its own right. Like, I love that they set up the Saul character as he's a bad guy. He kills Lazarus, but then he converts and becomes Christian and believes in the idea of Jesus the Messiah. I mean, that is very accurate to the Bible. Obviously, he does not interact with Jesus in the Bible, but like this really allegedly, I mean, this is what the Bible says. That's who Saul Paul is. That he becomes this Christian, this very Christian individual who believes in Christ and believes in him saving the world.
And that was Henry Dean Stanton, I believe, right? That was
Really good performance from him. I mean,
yeah,
just like he's in
yeah.
this movie for
It's
about 10 minutes, but I mean, his scene.
I don't know.
It's the
It's
same
so
thing with
crazy to
David
me that he
Bowie.
was so like strong-willed in this movie, considering I've seen him in all these different roles where he's like the frail older guy kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? But he was
I mean,
so
he's still kind of
strong-willed in
older, but
this.
he's younger in this at this
And
point. I
he's
mean,
the
and
one that
that's
stabs Lazarus, and he does it with like such force, like it was almost as if it was a gangster movie. All of a sudden,
really good.
all of a sudden,
It's really really
yeah, it
good.
was like yeah, and then it was like, why kill Lazarus? He just raised him from the dead. I was like, oh, it's to cover up the fact that he was raised from the dead. Now you have no evidence. I was like, oh, that was smart. That was really smart if you're trying to get Jesus to prove that he's not the son of man or son of God or whatever. But that was a good little twist there because I was thinking like, what the hell was that for? And then he just straight out says like, oh yeah, that's to prove me wrong. So that was a good little scene there. Um, yeah, and it just I gotta also compliment like Harvey Keitel. You mentioned the Arn Anderson energy. This because like the thing is like he quotes what is the Bible about like eye for an
Turn
eye,
the
not
other
eye for
cheek.
an eye, turn the other cheek. And I swear to God, I was like texting Jerome like, didn't Arn Anderson actually say this in the promo? And
I
you
mean,
told me
he
yes.
literally based his interpretation of saying the four horsemen based on the Bible. So
Right. So did
it's
Paul
not
Schrader
inaccurate.
watch 86 NWA and got like
No,
some like
I don't think so. I
because it just
Werner
feels like he in terms of like the
I don't
dialogue and
think
the
so.
character only, but because
Werner
that vibe
Herzog is the
is
wrestling fan in terms of the film community. It's Werner Herzog who's really the
well,
wrestling
he's a
fan.
WWE fan, which is a difference, wink wink, but
I mean,
but
do
yeah,
you know how surreal it is to watch the Hulk Hogan docu series and Werner Herzog is the one who begins and ends the last episode? It's
look,
profoundly
I heard it's
strange.
4 hours, and I know a lot about Hogan already, and I don't think there's no anything else much to know left. I mean,
You have too much self respect for your own well being to watch it. So
hey,
I
it's oh, speaking of the connection with Hogan, thank you for bringing it up. Okay, so my birthday's August 11th. That's also Hulk Hogan's birthday. I was born August 11th, 1988. Jerome, this movie came out August 12th, 1988.
that's pretty amazing. We should have done this in August. So you have
I know,
Hulk
but
Hogan and I have Prince.
I
That's
know.
pretty.
So, but
What a
there's no actual
contrast.
connection there because like they never like interacted on screen to my knowledge. So, and of course Prince is very kind of picky.
We have to mention David Bowie. Very subtle. Like it's like you watch him in Labyrinth and even The Prestige, and then you watch him in something like this, and like he nails the tone really well. Like him as Pontius Pilate, he does not stand out. I think Pontius Pilate is always portrayed as being very weak. And again, Martin Scorsese is kind of turning the story on its ear, and he makes Pontius Pilate much more powerful, I would say, and gives him an aura, and it's very much appreciated. I think because Jesus himself is also feels very strong willed, and seemingly ready to get violent at a moment's notice, I think it makes sense to have a Pontius Pilate who is not as weak-willed.
Yeah, so I just read this. I didn't even know this, but Sting got the role originally. Not Sting the wrestler, folks, obviously, but Sting from
That
Dune
would have
and
really led credence to the Four Horsemen connection.
yeah, right, right. But yeah, originally Sting was in it because I guess based on his performance in Dune, as Frey or whatever his name was, which is Austin Butler's role in Dune 2.
I
But
think
I
David
see
Bowie
it.
is the right choice.
I
And
think he's the right choice as well because over the years you can tell he's a much better actor than Sting ever could be. Especially like I think it kind of crescendos with the Prestige when he plays Tesla.
he's
Um,
really good in
is it
it.
Tesla?
Yep.
Yeah, and he just has this kind of monotone, but it's very like a royal tone that he kind of knows that he has to pull off because he's obviously Pontius Pilate. He's got this kind of elegance to him. He's not like shouting at Jesus like the other, like in Jesus Christ Superstar, right? But and he's only in it for one scene, but he just pulls it off so well in the way he's dressed, and of course that skinny look that he has, not necessarily the androgynous part, but just that skinny look because he just looks so well in that uh what do you call it, toga or whatever it is. So he looked great and he just fit the role so well, and he had only one scene, so that was really cool. And a little tie-in, I just looked this up. Paul Schrader wrote Cat People, which is a horror movie a couple years earlier in the 80s. And David Bowie wrote the song for Cat People. And that song ended up being in Inglourious Bastards as I think that was when the cinema was on fire. So there you go.
The more you know.
The more you
Anything
know.
else that we can say about this movie?
Well, externally, I think the poster's awesome. Like, not the one that shows Willem Dafoe with his face and the crowns, but like that red background with the black patterned crown. I just think it's tremendous because I'm a fan of minimalism. If you ever seen my work on like the trading cards and stuff for PWG and GCW, I'm much into that style, 60s, 70s minimalism style, where it just kind of is more effective, I feel. And this poster is just like totally like that feel to it. Like it's just you get the print of the pattern at the top and the bottom is like white, and you get the text at the bottom. It just pops out so well because the white contrasting with the red and the black, and it's just that deep red. So I really love this poster, even though there's like nobody on it. It's so simple, but that's just my style. So yeah, I just wanted to shout out the poster because if you look it up, it's not the one that's on the DVD cover, but that's the one like on Wikipedia and all that. That's my version of the poster. That's my vision of the poster. It's really great. And this movie is like, I don't know, like you mentioned, it's bottom 10 Scorsese maybe, but like, I mean,
I
this is
mean, I
definitely
don't know
better
if
than
it's. I
Aviator.
would really have to think about it because I mean there are very few punkers. Like I'm not super into After Hours, like I think a lot of people are, but it's really hard to say. I mean, I think this movie is genuinely really good. I think if this is well worth checking out, and I don't know, I just have always been impressed with the way that this movie is executed. I think this is a movie that shouldn't work, and the fact that it does is a testament to Martin Scorsese as a director and the great casting and just across the board, just some really. I mean, this movie is amazing to me, and eight out of 10, 8 out of 10 for me.
I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. I just wanted to point out that you kind of mentioned earlier that it was sort of forgotten late 80s when it came out, early 90s, only because I just looked this up as
There's so
well.
much controversy
Blockbuster,
around it, like the Catholic
I
Church
mean,
was
that
boycotting
controversy,
and stuff like
yes,
that.
and there was like fires and like people like there was even like at one point a Catholic group torched a cinema and injured a bunch of people, but Blockbuster refused to carry the movie. So if you do the math on that, that's what 60 to 70% of your home viewing audience taken away because like the other 30% are doing mom and pop. If that makes sense.
Yeah,
So once it came out of Criterion years later in the DVD boom era, that's when this movie started to get around more, and that's when I kind of around the time period I saw it. I saw the end of this movie on like Showtime or whatever around like 2000, 2001. Ended up running it later and seeing the whole thing, and just kind of being like, wow, this is like totally different than any other Scorsese movie that I've ever seen at the time, and still to this day, it's probably the most unique because of the subject matter, the look, and I think it's one of his very few period pieces that go beyond like 1910. You know what I'm saying, or whatever it is. Um, it's usually his comfort zone is like this gangster period, right? But this is way out of his comfort zone, it feels,
I
and
don't,
he executed
you know,
well.
I think people always associate him with the gangster movies, but if you really look at his filmography, like he has a very diverse filmography. I mean, I think people look, Goodfellas is a classic, justifiably so,
Oh, I
but
haven't seen Silence. I haven't seen Silence, so I can't really say on that. That's the
I
another one that's a little
I
off.
we may have to do that one at some point. But like he's got Hugo, like Hugo's a kids movie. Like he did a kids movie and he's done documentaries and I think he's been able to branch out from the gangster movies that he's associated with and do other things like this. And I mean, for God's sakes, he made a freaking like movie with Daniel Day Lewis that is like a romantic drama. I mean, it's crazy to me that people just associate him with gangster movies. But I mean, and look, he's done a fair amount, but he's also done a lot of other things too.
Okay, what's that romantic movie? Are you talking about Dangerous Liaisons? No, that's not it. I'm
No,
thinking
The
of
Age of
something else.
Innocence. The Age of
Age of
Innocence.
Innocent. I confuse come as those period pieces around that time. Kind of mix it up. I think who's in that one with Tilda Swinton? I'm thinking of Orlando. Now I'm even thinking something else. But yeah, that time
I have no
period.
idea
I
what
got
you're
you.
thinking about right now.
You never heard of Orlando? Oh,
Mate,
you got to look at Orlando. That's an interesting
I need
movie.
to watch more Paul Schrader movies because I've seen like a lot of his recent stuff, but
Yeah,
I
Paul
need to go
Schrader, man.
back.
There's this one movie that I think I'm saving for the
An
podcast for
incredible
us.
director. Do not read any of his political posts on Facebook, for
Right,
God's
that too.
sakes. Don't do
But
it.
have you seen Sorcerer?
That's one of the ones that I need to see.
Okay, so he wrote and directed that one, right? So that's another one that I've heard is like tremendous, heavily grounded. So I think we're saving that one because that's a movie that I think is going to need like a
I mean,
4K
no,
viewing
I
for
mean that
us.
no, I'm sorry. Sorcerer is William Friedkin.
Oh, sorry. I mixed those guys up because they're so grounded. You know what I'm saying? Like they're so like stubborn and grounded.
No, at some point we might need to do a full Paul Schrader month. And I mean, look, he has made like I love Card Counter. Um, I think very highly of that movie, especially. I mean, I think it's probably the best Oscar Isaac has ever been in a movie. And yeah, I have a lot of
Oh, we
bad
did we
memories.
did watch the Mosquito Coast, so yeah, that he wrote that. So yeah, again,
Yeah, I
very
mean, we've
grounded.
definitely done things in Britain, but we've never really done like we haven't really done a full fledged Paul Schrader directed movie, and I think we need to do that.
Also,
First
he wrote
Reformed.
Bringing Out the Dead. I want to point out he wrote Bringing Out the Dead, and that's another one of those unhinged
I
Scorsese
also want to
movies.
point out next year is the 10th anniversary of First Reformed, and that might be a good opportunity to do that because that movie is wild and is really really good.
I've heard good things, but again, when it comes to religious movies, it's like it's got to be a certain kind of movie, like a Last Temptation of Christ, where you
Oh,
kind of dig into it.
trust me,
If if it gets too
trust
scary,
me.
like that documentary we talked about a few weeks ago, then
Jesus camp.
not for
No,
me.
it's yeah,
Yeah,
it doesn't it goes in very interesting places. Anyway, next month we're doing something completely different. Brian, go ahead.
okay, so I've been kind of conjuring this up for the last couple months because I've been kind of catching up on my binge watch of Miami Vice. I'm in season 5 right now, towards the end. And a couple of years ago, Jerome binge watched the whole Moonlighting series. Right, you watched all 5 seasons.
It's brutal.
Uh,
The
uh,
final two seasons are really terrible.
See, the same thing happens with Miami Vice. So that's kind of why I wanted to bring these shows together. So what we're doing is Moonlighting, Miami Vice in May, or whatever. I'll rearrange the words, but it's an alliteration of May, Moonlighting, and Miami Vice. So basically, for the next 4 weeks, I'm going to pick 2 episodes. He's going to pick 2 episodes, and eventually, we're going to watch 8 episodes of each show throughout the month. Not necessarily the best episodes we think of the series, but episodes that we think will get the other hooked on the series. Because the idea is of this kind of month is that we both think that each show we're gonna get hooked on the other show, right? Like I've only seen Miami Vice, he's only seen Moonlighting, so we're gonna cross over and try to like hook each other into each other's binge watching shows. Does that make sense, folks? Because our sensibilities are very similar in terms of like 80s TV, I guess. So when we were like texting each other, like we were just like, wow, a lot of both these shows had kind of like a similarity to them in terms of like the peaks and the valleys and where they started. Moonlighting started in '84. Miami Vice started in '85. Even Bruce Willis appeared in Miami Vice, and you know what I mean. And like they both peaked at the same time and ended around the same time. So let's kind of put both together and try to get like a whole month out of it. So This way we get a Moonlighting month and a Miami Vice month, and so we can talk about the love of both shows. I love Miami Vice. He loves Moonlighting. Of course, we both bury both shows when it comes to seasons 4 and 5 because usually that's how they kind of peak.
Yeah,
And I'm
I'm
assuming
thinking that the episodes of Moonlighting we'll be watching will be in the first three seasons.
the same thing in Miami Vice, dude. So we're kind of on the same wavelength in terms of these shows, in terms of the way we love them. But it's definitely those first 3 seasons, especially season 1 and 2 for Miami Vice. So, and like I said, like Miami Vice has all these cameos. Moonlighting has this great writing and romance, so there's going to be this kind of this contrast. But I'm waiting for this one episode that Jerome told me is one of the all-time greatest episodes of all time in any written show. So I'm waiting for that. I'm guessing that's coming towards maybe the middle,
For
and
Moonlighting.
for Moonlighting, and of course we're going to talk about the epic pilot of Miami Vice. That of course we got to start with because it's the epic
Bum, bum,
pilot
bum,
that
bum, bum, bum.
dun dun
Can
dun
we
dun
feel
dun
it?
dun.
Can we feel it in the
Oh,
air tonight?
yeah, another Phil Collins reference. That's why I was kind of like tripping out that we brought in Peter Gabriel connecting with Phil Collins, connecting it now with Miami Vice, and I had mentioned Miami Vice earlier, and you're gonna get a lot of Peter Gabriel probably. So just be prepared. It's gonna be a fun month, and then we're gonna talk about obviously, we could talk about Bruce
Is
Willis
the
and
Moonlighting episode that you're referencing, is that the Christmas episode?
no, you told me there was this one episode where it was like everyone was like it was like a musical and everyone was like on point, and you said it was like the greatest thing ever.
Okay. All right.
So
I know which one you're talking about
yeah,
now. Okay.
exactly. So we kind of know what episodes we're gonna pick. It's gonna be fun, and somehow within the next 2 months, we're gonna slip in a YouTube exclusive because I promised this to Jerome. We're gonna also somehow review Dawson's Creek season 1. It's on Tubi right now. I think it's still on Tubi. Um, yeah, I know we have the love for the Beak and his tragic passing, and of course, Michelle Williams and all the other actors on that show, Joshua Jackson, that kind of blossomed from that show. So it's going to be kind of like a month of like shows, but also a YouTube exclusive as well. So we're trying to squeeze that in. We'll figure it out. But it's just kind of our love of
Yeah, Dawson's
TV.
Creek might end up being in June because if we're going to be doing 4 episodes a month or 4 episodes a week, that is a lot in its own right. And
We'll see,
we're talking
because
about 45 to 50-minute episodes here.
but for the record, these episodes go by fast because it's 80s TV. It's written in a certain way that kind of makes it
Right.
flow. So
Yes.
it doesn't feel as much as what I'm saying. Like that's why I picked. Like I think we can do two because some episodes actually connect with one another. So that's going to be a big deal as
Right. There
well.
might be a
So
two-parter or two in there.
yeah,
All right. Sounds
yeah,
good.
yeah. So it's going to be a fun month. It's a May Moonlighting, Miami Vice, and it's going to be fun. And that kind of wraps up Jesus Month. Any final thoughts on our Lord and Savior?
Praise Jesus. I
Um,
mean,
yeah. What else
not.
can you say?
Praise
But I
the
do
Lord,
believe in this.
Jesus.
But I do believe in this. So that I had to end with that. So my favorite line of the movie.
It's great. Yep. All right. For Brian and Jerome, thank you so much for listening. We'll talk to you again next week.